Jacob, a young 29-year-old journalist, was on the rise, working as a live links reporter at the Old York Times. It was a moment of great accomplishment for him. After years of hard work and dedication, Jacob had finally gained the space he had longed for, and his face was becoming familiar to the public. His job was to present the main news of the moment live, and he went to different events, from shows to demonstrations, always looking for the most relevant report. Although Jacob appreciated the recognition that came with his new position, what he never imagined was that this exposure would bring with it a storm of problems. His life, which seemed perfect and was going from strength to strength, suffered an unexpected and disturbing setback. Growing up in a loving home, Jacob was adopted by Emily and Michael when he was still a baby. His parents never hid his origins from him, and the fact that he was adopted was never a problematic issue. Emily and Michael had dreams of becoming parents, but faced difficulties conceiving. Destiny, however, brought Jacob into their lives, and they built a solid and loving relationship. Jacob never felt the need to look for his birth family. Life with his adoptive parents was always fulfilling enough. They provided him with a childhood full of opportunities, from travel to language studies to renowned schools. As a teenager, Jacob discovered his passion for communication and decided to follow the path of journalism. With the unconditional support of his parents, he entered a prestigious university and graduated with honors. Jacob's career began in local newspapers, moving on to electronic journalism, until, finally, he realized his dream of becoming a reporter on a major channel. Despite facing challenges at first, Jacob quickly stood out with his charisma and dedication. He began to receive recognition and even admirers on social media. His fame grew, and for a time his life seemed like a modern fairy tale. However, this stability was interrupted by an unexpected event. Upon returning to work after an ordinary day, Jacob was surprised by alarming news. A new criminal was terrorizing the city, attacking women and stealing their jewelry and belongings. The bandit, who wore a mask, demonstrated cruel and threatening behavior. The victims, all women between 50 and 60 years old, reported not only the robbery, but the intense fear and disdain with which they were treated. Authorities, based on a psychological profile of the criminal, speculated that he had a disturbed relationship with his mother figure. As Jacob followed the updates, he was particularly distressed to learn that his mother, Emily, was in the age group of the victims. The fear that his mother could be the next victim made him feel helpless and worried. Finally, the news that one of the victims had managed to remove the assailant's mask brought a glimmer of hope. Soon, a sketch of the criminal would be released, and Jacob longed to see this nightmare come to an end. The pressure of knowing his mother could be in imminent danger, and concern for the safety of the community took over Jacob. He was determined to see the criminal captured and restore peace to everyone, especially his family. In the newspaper office, one of the journalists announced that the sketch of the thief would be sent by the police in time for that night's edition. The revelation of the criminal's face was about to happen, and Jacob felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. Although he knew this news could overshadow his own live reporting, he was willing to accept it if it meant capturing a bandit who was terrorizing women. Before taking the production car to the live coverage, Jacob decided to enjoy some time with Madison, his girlfriend. Madison, 24, was a journalist specializing in weather forecasts and spent her days interviewing meteorologists and doing climate analysis. For that day, the forecast indicated stable weather and mild temperatures, which brought relief to Jacob. He was about to cover the entrance to a stadium for a concert by a big international star, which would guarantee a crowd and a lot of excitement. If there was rain or extreme temperatures, coverage would be much more complicated. Jacob said goodbye to Madison and left for work, without imagining that his life was about to change radically. When he arrived at the stadium, he positioned himself in front of the place with the line of fans in the background. I had already selected 2 fans camped in front of the stadium to interview during the live link. While waiting for the moment of his participation, Jacob received information that the thief sketch would be shown shortly before his live appearance, which increased his expectations. The expected high audience could make this the most memorable appearance of his career. Sitting there, Jacob reflected on his lot in life. He had achieved so much, more than he had ever imagined, but he was not prepared for what was about to happen. Although he did not see the images from the studio, only heard the audio through the electronic point, he was aware that the sketch would be shown. He imagined that the screen would show the portrait created based on the description of the victim. The accuracy of such portraits was often questionable, but any distinguishing feature could be enough to identify the criminal. The transition from the sketch image to Jacob's live report was planned to ease the weight of the serious news. However, the exchange of images had a shocking effect. When the screen changed, it was impossible to ignore that the sketch showed Jacob's face. Not realizing his audio was on, the news anchor exclaimed in shock, "Oh my God, it's him." Jacob, just listening to the broadcast and seeing his own face on the screen, was perplexed and looked for the producer's expression, who was visibly disconcerted. The anchor, informed by the news director, interrupted the live broadcast and announced that Jacob no longer worked at the station. He mentioned the extreme similarity between the portrait and the reporter and stated that the company was handling the situation. Jacob, not understanding what was happening, saw two police officers approaching him. The police approach was quick and essential, as fans watching the news were ready to confront Jacob. Guided into the police car, Jacob was taken to the police station, where reality began to sink in. The deputy showed him the sketch, and Jacob was astonished to see his own face rendered with alarming accuracy. Every detail was there: the shape of the face, the distance between the eyes, the cheekbones. It was impossible to deny the similarity, but Jacob couldn't understand how that could be true. The deputy questioned Jacob about the similarity with the portrait, and he, without realizing the trap, confirmed that it was him. When asked if this meant a confession, Jacob vehemently denied it. The situation got worse when he was taken to a room with other men similar to him, a suspect identification room. Jacob understood that the victim was on the other side of the glass, about to confirm whether he was the robber. With a mix of nervousness and hope, Jacob waited for the victim to tell the deputy that he was not the thief. Despite not recognizing the criminal's posture and attitude, Jacob knew that he had never robbed anyone. However, the woman, marked by the terror of the assault, confirmed that Jacob was the man who had attacked her. Jacob's arrest was ordered, and he found himself suddenly confronted with a reality that defied all logic and understanding he had of his own life. Determined to face adversity, a desperate Jacob made a call to his adoptive parents, begging for help. Emily and Michael, who were already aware of their son's arrest, faced the anguish of watching the drama unfold on national television. The situation was chaotic, and the family lawyer, called in to help, was on his way to the police station to meet Jacob. Arriving quickly, the lawyer confronted Jacob with the question of the crimes he was accused of. Offended and astonished, Jacob emphatically denied his guilt. The lawyer then explained that it was crucial to demonstrate that Jacob was elsewhere during at least one of the crimes. While proving this in every instance would be ideal, securing a solid alibi for at least one of the episodes, especially the assault of the woman who recognized him, was essential. Jacob, visibly shaken, analyzed the list of dates and times of the robberies provided by the lawyer. To his surprise and relief, he discovered that, on two of the occasions, he was on live broadcasts on the newspaper, including on the date of the robbery in question. It was an alibi that could not be refuted. Less than an hour later, Emily and Michael, Jacob's adoptive parents, arrived at the police station and requested an appointment with the police chief. Even though he was reluctant, the police chief agreed to listen to the couple. Emily started the conversation by revealing that Jacob was adopted. The delegate, confused, internally questioned the relevance of this information, but allowed her to continue. Emily told the deputy that when they decided to adopt Jacob, they were told he had a twin brother. The deputy, initially skeptical, began to understand the direction of the conversation, but still had doubts as to whether this was an attempt to exonerate his son. Emily reported that at the orphanage, the family was interested in adopting both brothers, but the biological mother was fighting to regain custody of one of the boys. Thus, Jacob was adopted by Emily and Michael, while Joshua, the twin brother, returned to his biological mother. Emily and Michael carried a sense of guilt, imagining that they were providing a life of privilege for Jacob, while Joshua faced hardship. Even without revealing to Jacob about his twin brother, the situation forced the revelation. Jacob, until then oblivious to the fact, never showed interest in looking for his biological family, contenting himself with the family he had. The deputy, still suspicious, was not willing to release Jacob immediately. However, when he was informed by his lawyer that Jacob was on live broadcasts during 2 of the robberies, including the episode with the woman who recognized him, he began to reconsider. He decided to investigate his twin brother, Joshua, but kept Jacob detained, fearing that the alibi could be a ruse to escape justice. The following days were dark for Jacob. He learned that co-workers were talking about his case, and his name was widely reported in the media. Madison, his girlfriend, was hesitant to visit him, fearing the negative repercussions on her career. Jacob, frustrated and disillusioned, questioned the future of the relationship and his marriage proposal. After 5 days of detention, Jacob was surprised by the news of his release and confirmation of his innocence. Bewildered, he anxiously wanted to know what had changed, but the answer was withheld from him. As he left the police station, he was surrounded by reporters and cameras, eager for details about his experience. One question shocked him deeply. What was it like to discover that he had a twin brother, now revealed to be a criminal? While dealing with the journalist's invasion of privacy, Jacob received news that his biological mother, Sarah, had voluntarily presented herself at the police station. She denounced Joshua as the person responsible for the robberies, claiming to have identified her son after the sketch. Sarah revealed that the decision to abandon Jacob at the orphanage was painful, but she believed he could have a better life. Joshua, upon discovering Jacob's success, felt betrayed by fate. His anger grew when he realized that while Jacob lived a life of luxury, he faced difficulties and lacked opportunities. Their frustrations were fueled by the contrast between their lives. Sarah, young and helpless at the time, had been forced to give up her children after her father kicked her out of the house. The pain of her decision stayed with her, fueling the hope that Jacob would find her someday. However, reality showed that adoptive parents filled this space. The final revelation of the twin brother, Joshua, and the impact it had on Jacob's life left an indelible mark on family history. Heartbroken, Sarah dedicated herself to finding a job that would allow her to take her children home. However, the salary was barely enough to support one of the boys. So, she made a painful decision. Through chance, she chose Joshua to stay with her, while Jacob would go to a new family. For Sarah, this choice was a cruel blow. Choosing which of her children would stay with her and which would be raised by other people was one of the most difficult experiences of her life. But, upon learning that Jacob would be adopted by a couple with good financial conditions, Sarah felt relief. She even considered allowing Joshua to be adopted as well, but her desire to be a mother to at least one of the boys prevailed. Sarah's happiness was shattered when she discovered that Joshua was being linked to the crime that was all over the news. She felt overwhelming guilt, believing that if Joshua had also been adopted, he would not have followed this path. Sarah noticed something wrong when she noticed that Joshua had a significant amount of money, even though he was unemployed. His evasive answers only increased his suspicions. One night, Joshua, visibly disturbed, revealed to his mother that he had perhaps contributed to Jacob's suffering, upon learning that the sketch shown on TV had led to Jacob being unjustly arrested. Determined to right the wrong, Sarah contacted the police. Investigations revealed part of the stolen items among Joshua's possessions, and the woman noticed that the victim's profile closely resembled hers. Through the experts' analyses, Sarah understood that Joshua was taking out his anger on her through the crimes he committed. His problematic behavior at school, his low grades and suspensions, reflect his discontent and anger. Joshua's anger only increased when he learned that Jacob had been adopted into a successful family, deepening his resentment and bitterness. Sarah struggled with the feeling that her choice to raise just one of her children, rather than both, had led to this tragedy. After Joshua's arrest, the newspaper offered Jacob the chance for a live interview to clear his name. During the interview, Jacob expressed his gratitude, even though he feared losing his job. The presenter asked about his future plans, and Jacob was honest in admitting he was uncertain, but was surprised to be asked to return to his job. Jacob's return to his job was a relief, and his story was highlighted. Madison, upon seeing the situation, apologized for not supporting Jacob when he needed it most. The apology led to a marriage proposal, a surprising and touching gesture for Jacob. The engagement ceremony, accompanied by the newspaper editors, was a moment of celebration. Madison revealed that her professional ambition had driven her away, but she was willing to fully commit to Jacob from that moment on. Jacob accepted the request, and their relationship grew stronger. Before marriage, Jacob felt it was important to meet his biological mother, even though she was unable to raise him due to financial circumstances. After relating stories of people who had to give up their children for adoption, Jacob decided he didn't hold any grudges. Meeting their biological mother came unexpectedly, but it offered them both the opportunity to reconnect. Sarah, who was dealing with Joshua's arrest, also found herself in a difficult situation, but meeting Jacob brought unexpected relief. The relationship between Jacob and Sarah evolved into a solid friendship. They discovered affinities, and Jacob realized the value of having known his biological mother. Sarah, in turn, saw Jacob suffering and accepted the offer of help by hiring a lawyer. Although reluctant, Jacob agreed to visit Joshua in prison after being encouraged by his adoptive mother, Emily. The prison visit was a moment of emotional confrontation. The similarity between Jacob and Joshua was undeniable, but their postures and attitudes were contrasting. During their meeting, Joshua confessed that he was envious of Jacob's opportunities, but prison gave him a new perspective. He acknowledged Sarah's sacrifice in having to give up one child to raise another and expressed regret for her ungrateful behavior. The brothers talked, and in the end, it was decided that Jacob would continue to visit Joshua. A few months later, Jacob and Madison got married. Sarah, thrilled, attended the ceremony and took photos to show Joshua. The honeymoon was brief as they both returned to work, where Jacob saw his career prosper and Madison receive new opportunities. Jacob also strengthened his bond with his adoptive family, especially with Emily and Michael. The news that Madison was pregnant with twins brought new joy, promising an even closer family. Jacob's experience with his birth mother and reunion with Joshua were complex and challenging, but they also brought personal growth and a new understanding of his own identity. He discovered that as he strengthened his bonds with his biological family, his bond with his adoptive family also deepened, creating an even stronger network of support and love. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave yours like. Your support makes all the difference and helps us continue to bring you more amazing content. Do you have any opinions, questions, or suggestions? Leave a comment here below. I love reading and responding to what you have to say. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the bell so you don't miss any news. We have new videos every day, and you won't want to miss out. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.